The cracked telescopic scope catches moonlight through the barbed wire, its lens reflecting fragments of the watchtower that collapsed 3 days ago. Sergeant Jake McNiece crouches in the mud of Stalag C, studying the Dragunov SVD rifle that lies half buried in frozen earth, like some discarded piece of advanced machinery. The weapon seems impossibly precise compared to the chaos around him. Broken glass, splintered wood, and the acrid smell of burnt tobacco that clings to everything in this corner of occupied Germany. March 1945, and the war feels like it's winding down everywhere except inside these wire fences. McNiece and 12 men from the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment ended up here after their glider cracked apart short of the drop zone, spilling them into a sabotage mission that became a capture within hours. The Germans marched them through bombed villages where hungry civilians threw stones and spat, then shoved them into this overcrowded camp filled with Allied airmen, tankers and infantry from operations that went sideways. McNiece expected beatings, interrogations, the kind of treatment that makes men disappear into themselves. What he didn't expect was Obergefreiter Klaus Brenner, a Wehrmacht sniper instructor who carries himself with the quiet authority of someone who understands deadly precision. Brenner notices McNiece examining the damaged rifle during morning roll call and approaches with curiosity rather than hostility. "You know this rifle, American?" McNiece shrugs, suspicious. Looks Russian. Probably left over from some unit that got chewed up, but the weapon fascinates him in ways he won't admit. As a demolitions expert with the Filthy 13, McNiece understands timing, exactness, the difference between success and catastrophe measured in seconds. This rifle suggests a different kind of precision, one measured in heartbeats and breathing patterns, in the space between decision and irreversible action. Brenner is lean and methodical, with calloused hands and tired eyes that speak careful English learned from previous prisoners. He studies McNiece with the same attention he might give to wind direction or range estimation. It requires understanding this weapon, not just power. Over the following days, something unexpected develops. During brief recreational periods, Brenner retrieves the Dragunov and begins what he calls theoretical instruction. He cannot allow McNiece to fire the weapon. Ammunition is scarce, and gunshots would bring the camp commandant running, but he demonstrates marksmanship principles with patient thoroughness. How to calculate windage, control breathing, squeeze triggers with surgical gentleness. Precision is not about destroying, Brenner explains while cleaning the rifle's mechanism with reverent care. It is about understanding wind, distance, the heartbeat of your target. McNiece finds himself drawn into these discussions despite every instinct screaming mistrust. The German's approach mirrors his own philosophy about explosives, that expertise comes from patience, observation, respect for forces you're trying to control. But other prisoners watch these interactions with growing resentment. If stories like this make you imagine what you'd do under fire, tell us in the comments how you think you'd react in this situation. And stay with us for the next chapters. Staff Sergeant Tommy Walsh from the 4th Armored Division corners McNiece during evening mess, his voice tight with anger. "What the hell are you doing, Jake? Fraternizing with the enemy? Learning how to kill Americans more efficiently?" McNiece's jaw hardens. The mess hall smells of watery soup and unwashed bodies, conversations conducted in half-whispers under the watchful eyes of guards. Brenner's different. He's not like the typical Nazi guards. Different how? Walsh's spoon clatters against his tin bowl. He's still Wehrmacht, still the enemy. The accusation stings because it echoes McNiece's own doubts. Every morning at Stalag C brings the same routine. Roll call in the muddy yard, work details that accomplish nothing, and the gradual erosion of hope that comes with captivity. The Dragunov lessons feel like mental escape, but they also feel like betrayal of something he can't quite name. Brenner reveals more of himself during subsequent sessions. He was a hunting guide in Bavaria before the war, teaching wealthy tourists to track deer through alpine forests. His hands move over the rifle's components with the same reverence McNiece reserves for blasting caps and detonation cord, tools that demand absolute respect because mistakes kill people. "My son flies for the Luftwaffe," Brenner mentions quietly, while adjusting the scope's focus. "Shot down over England. Captured." McNiece understands suddenly why a Wehrmacht instructor might teach marksmanship to an American prisoner. The British treating him well? They teach him English. Let him work in their gardens. Perhaps if I show similar consideration, it creates balance. These marksmanship lessons become Brenner's way of demonstrating humanity, a desperate hope that kindness might somehow travel across occupied Europe to reach his captured son. McNiece recognizes the calculation, not coldly tactical but deeply human. The precision Brenner teaches isn't just about hitting targets, it's about knowing when not to shoot, when restraint requires more skill than action. But Walsh's words continue to gnaw. During work details, McNiece catches other prisoners watching him with suspicion. The 506th men remain loyal. They've seen him blow bridges under fire, improvise solutions when plans collapsed. But airmen and tankers whisper about the demolitions NCO who spends his free time learning German marksmanship techniques. Private Morrison, one of McNiece's own men, approaches him near the latrines where conversations can't be overheard. "Sarge, some of the guys are getting nervous about these lessons." "What kind of nervous?" "The kind where they wonder if you're planning something stupid that gets us all shot." McNiece stares through the wire at the Dragunov, still lying in its patch of frozen mud like a piece of advanced engineering abandoned by retreating forces. The rifle represents everything he both admires and distrusts about German precision. Methodical, efficient, deadly. But Brenner's approach suggests something more, that true expertise involves understanding your tools so completely that you know exactly when not to use them. The bombing comes on a clear night in late March. Allied aircraft targeting what they believe are German positions. McNiece wakes to the whistle of incoming ordnance and the splintering crash of wooden barracks collapsing under high explosives. In the darkness and chaos, he hears voices crying for help from beneath collapsed beams and shattered roofing. Stalag 9C transforms into a disaster zone within minutes. Fires burn in 3 locations, casting dancing shadows across rubble that was prisoner housing moments earlier. McNiece immediately begins organizing rescue efforts, his demolitions knowledge suddenly invaluable for calculating which debris can be safely moved without causing further collapse. Brenner appears beside him in the smoke-filled darkness, the Dragunov slung across his back, moving with purpose rather than panic. The Wehrmacht instructor doesn't speak. There's no time for explanations or justifications. He simply begins helping to lift wounded men from the wreckage. Working together, they don't discuss politics or strategy, only the immediate mechanics of saving lives. Brenner uses the rifle's scope as a precision tool, scanning rubble for signs of trapped prisoners, while McNiece calculates which support beams can be safely moved. The weapon that symbolized deadly efficiency becomes an instrument of rescue. "Here," Brenner whispers, pointing through the scope. Movement, 2 meters left of that beam. McNiece follows his direction and finds Morrison unconscious but alive beneath a pile of shattered wood. They work methodically through the night, the German instructor and the American demolitions expert using their respective skills to pull survivors from what could have been their graves. Other prisoners watch this collaboration with confusion and grudging respect. Walsh helps carry wounded men to the improvised aid station, no longer questioning McNiece's judgment. The crisis strips away the luxury of suspicion, revealing something more fundamental about survival and humanity. By dawn, they've rescued 17 men who would have died without immediate intervention. German officers investigate the bombing damage, but no questions are asked about how so many prisoners were saved so quickly. Brenner quietly returns the Dragunov to its position in the rubble, and the rifle disappears back into the mud as if nothing had happened. But McNiece carries the lesson forward. Precision, whether in marksmanship, demolitions, or human judgment, requires the ability to see clearly through chaos, to maintain steady hands when everything around you falls apart. The night taught him that expertise isn't just technical skill, it's knowing exactly when and how to apply that skill for purposes beyond destruction. Morrison recovers consciousness in the aid station, his first words directed at McNiece. "Sarge, how'd you find me so fast in all that mess?" McNiece doesn't mention Brenner or the rifle scope. Some explanations would complicate things unnecessarily. "Just got lucky, soldier. Sometimes that's all it takes." Would you follow the orders exactly, or trust what your own eyes and instincts tell you in a moment like this? Comment which path you'd take. And share this episode with someone who loves real human stories from history. April arrives with news of advancing Allied forces and the gradual breakdown of camp discipline. German guards grow nervous, radios crackle with conflicting orders, and rumors spread that Stalag 9C might be evacuated or abandoned entirely. McNiece notices Brenner becoming more withdrawn, spending longer periods cleaning and maintaining the Dragunov, despite having no ammunition to fire through it. The final marksmanship lesson occurs on a grey afternoon, when spring rain turns the compound into a maze of muddy channels and standing water. Brenner retrieves the rifle one last time, his movements careful and deliberate as he demonstrates the complete cycle of precision shooting. Breathing control, sight alignment, trigger squeeze, while McNiece watches with understanding that transcends their previous instructor-student relationship. "The most important shot," Brenner says quietly, "is the one you choose not to take." McNiece recognizes this as something beyond marksmanship instruction. It's a philosophy about power, restraint, and the terrible responsibility that comes with capabilities others don't possess. As a demolitions expert, he's carried similar weight, knowing that his decisions about what to blow up, when, and how completely could determine whether missions succeed and men survive. "Your son?" McNiece asks. "Any recent word?" Brenner nods slowly, his hands continuing their methodical maintenance of the rifle. "Released last month. British officers taught him aircraft engine repair. Good work for peacetime. The irony isn't lost on either man. While they learned precision from each other in a German prison camp, Brenner's son learned mechanical skills from British captors who treated him with similar humanity. The war's machinery of destruction somehow generated small islands of teaching, learning, and mutual respect. Liberation comes suddenly, American armored vehicles appearing at the camp gates before most prisoners realize what's happening. As men prepare for evacuation, McNiece searches for Brenner among German guards being processed for interrogation. He finds the former sniper instructor sitting alone near the camp entrance, no longer wearing his Wehrmacht uniform. The Dragunov lies nearby, finally abandoned as advancing Allied forces have no use for individual German weapons. McNiece studies the rifle that taught him so much about precision, understanding, and the spaces between action and restraint. Its advanced engineering represents everything he initially distrusted about German military efficiency, but Brenner's instruction revealed something more complex. "The rifle," McNiece says, nodding toward the weapon. "Someone else will probably pick it up, use it differently." "Precision survives the hands that hold it," Brenner replies. "What you learned remains, even when the tool changes." McNiece extends his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Brenner shakes it. No words are exchanged about the lessons learned, the lives saved during the bombing, or the strange friendship forged between enemies. Both men understand that such moments exist outside normal categories of loyalty and conflict. The secret McNiece never shared in any debriefing or post-war interview was how completely Brenner's instruction changed his understanding of his own expertise. During those theoretical marksmanship sessions at Stalag 9C, He realized that his demolitions work had always relied on the same principles: patience, observation, respect for forces beyond his control, but he'd never articulated the philosophy behind his technical skills. Brenner didn't just teach sight alignment and trigger control. He revealed how precision thinking applied to any tool, any situation, requiring exact judgment under pressure. McNiece began reconsidering every bridge he'd blown, every charge he'd set, recognizing moments when restraint might have achieved better results than destruction. The night of the bombing became a turning point, not because they saved lives together, but because McNiece watched Brenner use a sniper rifle as a rescue tool. The scope that had been designed to acquire human targets instead helped locate trapped prisoners in debris. This reversal of purpose, using instruments of death to preserve life, challenged everything McNiece thought he understood about military expertise. What the official records never captured was his growing respect for an enemy instructor who chose teaching over cruelty, who demonstrated that true precision involves knowing when not to use the skills you possess. Brenner could have used his marksmanship knowledge to intimidate or threaten prisoners. Instead, he shared it as a form of intellectual gift, hoping that kindness might somehow travel to his captured son. McNiece carried this lesson back to his demolitions work after liberation, but also into his post-war understanding of expertise and responsibility. The Dragunov's advanced engineering had initially represented everything threatening about German military precision. Brenner's instruction revealed that precision itself was morally neutral. What mattered was how you chose to apply it, when you chose restraint, and how you balanced technical capability with human consideration. Years later, McNiece would tell people that his concept of military precision was forever changed, not by American training or combat experience, but by a German sniper who used a Soviet rifle to teach lessons about humanity. The specific marksmanship techniques mattered less than the larger principle. The true expertise requires understanding not just how to use your tools, but when not to use them. The Dragunov SVD, with its telescopic scope and surgical accuracy, had pushed his thinking beyond mere technical skill toward something approaching wisdom. Brenner showed him that precision wasn't about power or destruction. It was about understanding wind, distance, and the heartbeat of your target well enough to know exactly when those skills should remain unused. This became the foundation of how McNiece approached every subsequent challenge, requiring exact judgment under pressure. The rifle disappeared into the mud of a liberated prison camp, but the lessons it facilitated would influence his thinking for decades. Liberation brought immediate relief, but also unexpected complications. As McNiece and the other prisoners prepared to return to Allied lines, he found himself struggling to explain the marksmanship lessons to debriefing officers who wanted clear categories: collaboration or resistance, fraternization or survival strategy. The truth felt too complex for intelligence reports that reduced human interactions to simple classifications. Staff Sergeant Walsh, no longer suspicious but still confused, approached McNiece during their final hours at the liberated camp. "You never did explain what those lessons were really about, Jake." McNiece watched German prisoners being loaded onto trucks for transport to different camps, processing centers, uncertain futures. Brenner had already disappeared into that system, probably carrying his own complex memories of teaching American prisoners while hoping his son received similar consideration from British captors. "They were about understanding tools," McNiece finally answered, "knowing when precision matters most." The Dragunov remained in its patch of mud, ignored by advancing American forces more interested in German documents, equipment, and personnel than individual weapons. McNiece took one final look at the rifle that had facilitated such unexpected learning, then walked toward the trucks that would carry him back to the war's ending phases. Returning to Allied territory felt like emerging from a strange dream where enemy instructors taught precision thinking and sniper rifles became rescue tools. McNiece's debriefing sessions focused on German guard procedures, camp layout, potential intelligence value of conversations overheard. No one asked about marksmanship instruction or the philosophical implications of learning enemy techniques, but the lessons persisted in unexpected ways. Back with the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment during the war's final weeks, McNiece approached demolitions work with enhanced understanding of precision thinking. He found himself calculating not just how to destroy targets effectively, but how to apply exactly the right amount of force, how to achieve objectives with minimal collateral damage, how to balance technical capability with broader strategic consideration. The war ended before he could fully test these insights in combat, but they influenced his post-war approach to every situation requiring expert judgment under pressure. Whether working construction jobs back in Oklahoma or teaching demolitions techniques to younger veterans, McNiece carried forward Brenner's central lesson: that true precision involves understanding your tools so completely that you know exactly when not to use them. Decades later, when freight trains crossed bridges near his home, the rhythmic clatter of steel on steel would sometimes bring back memories of that telescopic scope catching moonlight through barbed wire. The Dragunov SVD had represented everything initially threatening about enemy precision, but Brenner's instruction revealed precision as a form of intellectual discipline that transcended military categories. The rifle had pushed McNiece's thinking beyond technical expertise toward something approaching wisdom, understanding that the most important shot might be the one you choose not to take, that the most crucial explosion might be the one you decide not to detonate. If this story reminded you that behind every medal and mission report there's a human being carrying memories we'll never fully see, subscribe to the channel. Tell us which country you watch from, and invite someone to revisit history with us in the next story.